Well, Mark, you described it last week, looking at these two games as being a monster week and looking to force that grandstand finish, and nothing really changes after the weekend. It's a really important one.
Yeah, I think regardless of Saturday's result, it was always going to be the key this week. When you look at these two games, obviously we wanted to start the week with a more positive result than one that we got, and everything in the performance was sort of aiming towards and leading towards that. So for us to come out with nothing at the weekend was tough for us. But we have to pick ourselves up and deliver in a week that is like for us, but also for them, just big games. 12 games to go, quarter of the season. We need to turn in some results that a few of our performance recently have deserved and haven't got, but certainly one to relish this week, because these are big games. And you always talk about wanting to play in big games, but you only ever talk about that when they're going for you and the big occasions. Well, this is a big occasion and we have to turn up for it and relish it and look forward to it, despite the fact that we're in a situation that we're in. We have to remember that the other teams are in that situation too, and the pressure's the same for everybody, and we have to make sure that pressure brings out the best of us.
It's fairly obvious, really, over recent weeks that since Lincoln, the overall formula has been good. There's been lots of really good football, as you mentioned at the weekend, those to be pleased with, but crucially, if you don't get the goals, it undoes, I was going to say a lot of that good work, but basically all of it.
Yeah, and hard to beat and hard to create chances against, and defensively strong and robust, which we needed to become because we'd lost that a little bit. So we found that area of the game well. I think we've become more and more creative at times, learning a different shape and playing in certain different ways. And we haven't put the finishing touches on that often enough. And that's been a bit of a theme for the season, which is a big reason why we are where we are. But we've got to be making sure that we continue to create those opportunities. There's games, I said this on Saturday, there's games where we haven't scored and haven't looked like scoring massively, or have relied on very few opportunities. And then there's other moments where we haven't, but we've been good in that way. And I talked about in lots of the areas of the game it being a win for us performance-wise. Obviously, there's no win for us in terms of taking any points from the game. We can't get away from that. But you have to separate sometimes the outcome from the performance at times. Otherwise, you just drive yourself mad and you fall into the football fan trap of if you win, you're good, if you lose, you're rubbish. And neither of those two things are really true. So we have to try and look at that a little bit more logically and work out if we lose, why we lose, or if we win, why we win. And we haven't put enough points on the board for the performances that we've delivered recently. So we've got to try and keep turning away of doing that. I don't think that's far away, and we've got to try and make sure that is the case this week.
Presumably, as a manager, picking the side for these two games, looking at what you're going to do, it's a delicate one in terms of fitness and fatigue, in that I think we saw against Exeter that was a really tough week, and we saw some evidence of the energy that had been put in across those three games. But also you have to make a decision as to what you've seen from recent matches. If you keep plugging away and if the confidence can arrive in front of goal, the formula there, whether you keep backing it or how much you change to just try and get a little bit more.
Absolutely. I mean, I think consistency is quite important with lineups, and in our best spells we've had that, and then we've not been able to have that much this year. So we're trying to land on a little bit of a common structure, because only then, when you review your performances and you work towards trying to be something, if you constantly change within that, then it's hard to try and back that up. So we've found some consistency with the team. And I don't think we've got all the results we've deserved in this last spell, but that consistency's helped us, I think. So we've got to try and get that balance between, as you rightly say, a 3-game week. Last time we played Oxford on the Saturday, we were excellent on the Tuesday, and we'd run out of legs by the Saturday. So I think game 3 is probably more important in terms of the fatigue element than game 2 in the week. And also we have to factor in the travelling distance times and things last week, which is very different to this week. So it is certainly a different week in that sense, but you can learn something from the 3-game week, and potentially the Milton Keynes game on Saturday might mean one that is needing to make changes from, if we choose to not make any tomorrow, obviously. But we'll have to balance that out as we go. One thing I'm really happy with, I am really pleased with the performance level of the majority of those games. And I think that is so close to turning in winning performances. But until it does, it doesn't really matter. If you said to me tomorrow you can win the game and it'll be rubbish, of course we'll take that, because in the end that's the most important thing. But you have to stack the odds in your favour that the better you perform and the more in line with something you are, the more chance you give yourself of getting a result. So that's our aim, try and find the level again and convert the moments that we get. And I'm sure if we can find that, then the confidence can rush through the team quite quickly.
Talking of performance levels, it's been a really good couple of weeks, and I guess maybe it gets overlooked because of the bigger picture. But for Jack Lancaster, had a bit of a dip in common with others at Exeter. But I think one of the things you've been asking of him is for the consistency and for the energy in his performances, and he's really delivered that.
Yeah, I mean, I think Jack's a creative player that can make things happen for us, and playing in a slightly deeper role, I think he's done that quite well so far. Tomorrow might be a game where there's limited space in their half, and we're going to have to be clever to unlock it and patient in our play at certain times. But he's also given us a good bite and energy and aggression in his game as well, which is an addition to his game, I think, and really important. Certainly the deeper he plays, but also just in our team, we're rarely the possession dominant team, or certainly there's spells where we are out of possession and we need 11 players to defend. There's no doubt about that. So we need him to add that, and I think this run of games is really helping him do that. He's a player that we know's got potential and can go on and do good things for us. I remember last time against Morecambe, he played really well away from home there, and I think was man of the match and set up the first goal and bits and pieces like that. So we're really pleased with his level at the moment, and not far away from being a real creative player for us. So hopefully he can continue doing that as he puts the games together.
With Steve Seddon and Brandon Hornstrup at the weekend, is it just a case of you only need so many left-sided players in the squad, or you only needed so many on Saturday? Not that Brandon's had any sort of setback. Yeah,
no, Brandon's fine. We're actually, for the first time in, I cannot remember how many months, we've got people now that will leave out of a match day 18. It's just been so long since we've had that. And now all of a sudden we're a bit heavy in the left-sided position. Dunks is back training as well, so we've sort of got 4 players that can play on that side of the pitch. And I do think like Brandon's done well, actually trained well. He's just limited for minutes on the pitch. And Steve's one that we bought in January that we think can make a real difference to us as well. So looking forward to seeing that. I thought he did all right when he came on at the weekend as well. So one that hopefully we can just build up throughout this week and next, and have a real competition on that left-hand side.
Without giving away any key details, is there anyone you're keeping an eye on ahead of Tuesday night? Anyone that might not make it, or all looking good after Saturday?
No, everybody came through the game fine. So we've just got to make sure Shiloh's all right from taking one in the face late on from the shot from Sam. But he had a bit of a headache after the game, but that's settled down, and he's passed all his concussion protocols and things. So hopefully he's fine this morning. Other than that, everybody else came through the game okay.
What do you make of Morecambe as a side?
I think they're playing well at the moment, actually. They've been very good at home, particularly, and they've probably had a bit of a change around since we last played them. They've been fairly strong in possession team, lots of fluidity in midfield. We know players like Jensen quite well, and Dan Crowley, who we've played against over the years. It gives them a quite technical team and a possession-based team, but they also counter-attack well and defend deep at times well. So I think they're hard to create a chance against in lots of ways, or you have to be patient in order to do that. You have to make sure in chasing those chances you don't leave yourself open to counter-attacks, and also that you have to deal with the rotation and fluidity of their midfield, because they give them a real good dynamic in there. But at the same time, they're all things that we can cope with and deal with. I think we'll go into the game fairly clear on what's coming. They have had a bit of variety in who's played where, and also changing between a back 3 and a 4. But more recently they've been 4-2-3-1, and we'll have a fairly good idea of what's coming, but we'll have to be able to adapt a little bit depending on who plays in what position, because it changes them a little bit, and if they change the system of the team. But for us, I think it's really important that we concentrate on delivering the level that we found at the weekend, and putting the final piece on the puzzle.
Cool, that's great for me.
Mark, just on the injury front, is Harvey Nibbs going to be available for tomorrow night?
Nibbsy will train today for the first time, so we'll see how he gets through training today. It may be too soon for him, because it is his first session back and first contact day, and it'll be light today really as well, so it might be too soon for him tomorrow, but we've certainly got Saturday in our minds. We've just got to see whether or not we can accelerate that, but we'll know a little bit more later on.
And of the other injured players, is anyone else close to returning at all?
No, everybody else that's available. So Greg will train today as well. So Greg and Nibbsy are both in full training today. for the first time. Harrison Dunk's trained last week, so he's available to be back involved as well. And I think that's it.
With Kayon as well, are you considering putting him in the squad?
Yeah, he's
tomorrow night, if not.
He's an option. He'll train today, and he'll be an option for tomorrow as well. So we'll see how that looks in the balance of the bench between defending and attacking players. It'll certainly be one I think that we need more attacking options on the bench for tomorrow. So he's got a good chance of being involved. A little bit of that might depend on where Nibsy's at, but I'd expect one of those two to be involved.
How's Adam May getting along? I'm conscious that I haven't asked about him in a number of months, going to the length of injury.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds horrible, doesn't it? Because you do sort of forget about people when they're out of it. I mean, he's in every day, working his socks off. He's not out on grass yet. He's on the bike. He's in the gym, working incredibly hard. It's pretty boring for him, but his attitude towards his work's been great, and he's on track to where he should be. There's been no issues at all with his recovery, but he's still a good few weeks away from being out running and jogging on the grass. But that won't be too far away now. But certainly the top end stage of his recovery takes quite a long while. It's a significant injury that takes a lot of coming back from. So other than being a little bit bored in the gym, he's actually been in quite good spirits, and he's working his socks off in there. So yeah, credit to him for that really, because it's a long haul and a tough one. And I guess the only saving grace for him, it isn't one for us. He's had plenty of company in there this year, so it can be a very lonely place when you're out for a long time and you're in the gym on your own. But he's never been in there on his own. He's been in there with a team full of players at times. So he's certainly not been having to fight against himself all the time. He's had working buddies and people that he can get fit and stay fit with. So that's probably been really helpful for him, although not so much for us.
Yeah, and just on the lack of goals this season, a lot of fans have kind of been saying, why didn't you sign a striker in January? Was that ever on the agenda as something that you considered doing? I
think a few things. You always look at those situations as to whether you do or you don't. We didn't. We hope Nibsy wasn't broken in this period of time. We hope Shiloh was able to be fitter for longer, and he's hopefully coming back to that, and for Jiri also. So really, 5 strikers in those positions, we're quite comfortable that those 5 could create us chances and score us goals. You don't expect 3 of them to be out quite quickly after the window. So he's certainly not one that you discount or discard. Could we have signed a young player that's never played in a first team before and just come and been part of it? Yes. Is there huge motivation for them if they know they're not going to play? No. And we've had some experience of doing that in the past, and they don't make any difference. So unless you're going to sign someone that can make a difference, then there's no real value in doing that. And there's other clubs that have paid big fees and over £5,000 a week to players on long-term contracts. We're certainly not in the boat to do that, and we shouldn't be doing that either. But that's certainly not something that was available to us. Very, very few options. People interested in ours, but very few others in there that we would have probably thought could make us better. So I think that the toughest bit now is to try and make sure we get a couple of those back. If Shiloh can be flying and Nibsy can be back, we've got 4 that can play there that are good, and we'll certainly get plenty of offers in the summer. So we're not too downbeat by that. It's obvious that if you run out of players or you lose players or whatever, it's easy to just say sign more and sign other ones, but it's not always as easy as that. And I think the review points for the season, in terms of the good decisions, bad decisions, what went well, what didn't, for me personally, that they come at the end of the season. I understand for everyone else they come all the way through, but right now we're in the muck and bullets of game after game, and that's where we're really focused on trying to help these boys get back to the best level they can.